This manhwa starts off with a rainy blood-red sky. In the pouring rain, the aftermath of a gruesome war is laid bare, with countless bodies strewn across the battlefield. Amidst the fallen, a lone figure kneels in despair. Ronin stands alone as the sole survivor, holding his shattered sword while mourning amid a ruined and empty land. The battlefield reflects the cruelty of the conflict, littered with fallen bodies and abandoned weapons. Soaked in blood and rain, Ronin exhales heavily as exhaustion and sorrow fill his eyes after the battle. He gazes across the endless field of fallen comrades, realizing they were slain in countless brutal ways. A single tear escapes his eye as he clenches his fist in frustration and anger. Suddenly, he turns his head, a glimmer of surprise in his eyes. A voice echoes in his mind, expressing shock that a mere human could be so powerful. The defeated giant, still barely clinging to life, calls Ronin a bastard, shocked that he's still breathing. Ronin stands defiantly on the chest of the colossal, winged creature he has just slain. This foe was Ahayuti the giant. Ahayuti, with his horned head and glowing eyes, stares back with an imposing presence. He was the last of the 3 giants, celestial beings who had suddenly appeared in the Empire 20 days ago. They began wreaking havoc for no apparent reason, leaving destruction in their wake. The sound of Ronin's cape whipping in the wind is heard as he confronts the dying giant. Ronin coldly tells Ahayuti that half of the empire lies in ruins because of him and questions what right he has to remain alive. Ahayuti, accepting his fate, tells Ronin not to fear, as he will soon return to the embrace of his creator. Ronin scoffs and dismisses him, saying it is good riddance and hoping his dead companions are waiting for him. Ronin recalls their end, stating that one was burned alive like meat by the red dragon. The other was permanently sealed away by the powerful elder Loron. A cruel smile crosses Ronin's bloodied face as he mockingly asks the giant if he grasps the futility of his cause. But Ahayuti warns the warrior not to delude himself by concealing the truth. He reveals that as children of the stars, they share their senses with one another. He knows the powerful warriors who fought his comrades also perished and asks Ronin if he understands the weight of this. It means no warriors as strong as Ronin remain to defend the land. Ronin scoffs, defiance in his eyes, and retorts that he is still standing. Ahayuti tells him not to be arrogant, reminding him that his time has also almost reached its end. Ahayuti presses his foot down, admitting relief and thinking that if Ronin had trained earlier, he could have been a true obstacle. Clenching his teeth in fury, Ronin asks if the giant is just trying to piss him off. He declares that his life was already terrible enough even without this latest disaster. Tired of the chatter, he tells the giant to just shut up and die already. With his final breath, Ahayuti admits that he admires Ronin's spirit. Ronin tightens his grip on his sword, but the giant's final words are a prophecy of doom. There is no hope for this world. It is doomed to be consumed by the starlight of their race. With that, Ahayuti finally perishes. Fueled by a final surge of adrenaline and rage, Ronin leaps into the air and brings his sword down on the giant's corpse. The giant's massive head falls back, now truly lifeless. Ronin pants, exhausted and defeated, his body and spirit broken. He resigns himself to his fate, believing that what's done is done and he can't change anything. He huffs, catching his breath in the rain, the weight of his failure pressing down on him. His eyes, once filled with fiery defiance, now hold a look of utter despair. Sitting in the mud and rain, a memory of happier times at camp with laughing comrades surfaces. He sees himself again, sitting quietly amidst the lively group. He remembers his scarred friend, who had a knack for bringing him out of his shell. The memory is bittersweet, a reminder of the camaraderie they all shared before the battle. He even recalls them standing together in their armor, a united front ready to face the world. But the happy memory shatters, replaced by the horrific image of his friend's final moments on the battlefield. Back in the present, Ronin huffs, looking at the bodies of his comrades piled together. He calls them silly fools. In grief, he asks why they had to die and why they couldn't swallow their pride. He wonders if they really thought they were as strong as him, splashing through the mud towards them. He brushes his fallen comrade's face, lamenting that they should have fled but were too stubborn until the end. Looking over the dead, Ronin admits he doesn't understand as the giant's aura repelled even the Empire's greatest swordsman. So why, he wonders, did only his sword work against them? Guilt consumes him as he believes that if not for him, the penal soldiers wouldn't have led the charge and his friend wouldn't have died first. His eyes narrow as the painful thoughts race through his mind. It's a puzzle he can't solve, a burden he can't comprehend. I just don't get it, he thinks. Overwhelmed by survivor's guilt and confusion, Ronan collapses to his knees in the blood-soaked mud. But then, a faint, weak voice cuts through the sound of the falling rain, asking if anyone is there. Ronan's head snaps up, his eyes wide with disbelief. It's the voice of a young girl. He learns her name is Estelle, and she's injured and can't move. Ronan turns his head, shock and hope surging as he thinks what. The realization hits him like a lightning bolt, his eyes trembling with a newfound emotion. She is alive. He frantically scans the desolate battlefield, searching for the source of the voice among the bodies of the fallen. With trembling hands, he grips his broken sword, using it as a crutch to try and stand. A fire is reignited within him, a desperate will to live and to protect. He pushes through the pain, stumbling forward with renewed purpose. Through the rain, he spots a woman in a red uniform slumped against a rock, another survivor. A weak smile forms on Ronan's face as he exclaims that she is alive. He flinches, recognizing her fully, and whispers in shock and relief what. She is gravely injured, blood dripping steadily from a makeshift bandage on her arm. It is the Grand Marshal Adeshan. Despite her wounds, her resolute expression offers a glimmer of hope amid despair. Ronan grits his teeth, clenching his jaw against the pain racking his body. Leaning on his sword, Ronan looks at the injured Grand Marshal and asks what happened, and she replies that he doesn't look well either. Adeshan, blood trickling down her face, asks what about Ahayuti and if he is dead. Ronan confirms that he killed him and the body is nearby. Ronan stares at her, exhaustion and grim satisfaction in his expression. Adeshan closes her eyes in relief, a tear mixing with blood as she whispers that he is finally dead. Overwhelmed with emotion, she looks at him with gratitude and tears streaming down her face, saying, "Thank you, Corporal Ronan." Ronan watches her, his own pained expression unreadable as she weeps. Ronan shifts, raising a finger and asking if she can do him a favor, and Adeshan looks up, curious. Ronan looks over the battlefield and asks Adeshan to ensure the penal soldiers receive proper burials, acknowledging that they played an important role in the victory. Adeshan's expression turns grim as she says she is not sure if she will make it back alive. She looks at him with a sense of finality. "You might have to bury them yourself." Ronan begins to protest but is cut off by a violent coughing fit, startling Adeshan. He looks at his gloved hand stained with fresh blood and grimly asks if she truly thinks he will outlive her. Ronan exhales blood with a bitter smile, admitting that he is already close to death. He looks across the bleak land and admits that with death near, he regrets all the things he never had time to do and feels sorrow at leaving. Adeshan softly asks what he would do if he survived, and Ronan lets out a weak laugh, admitting there are many things he still wants to do. Ronan sits down, his expression growing thoughtful as one desire stands out in his mind. He tells Adeshan his deepest regret is not studying at an academy, and she looks surprised. Ronan grimaces, recalling the fallen giant Ahayuti, and says it is partly because of the giant's actions. His tone softens, gaze distant, hinting at a more personal reason. Ronan reveals the depth of his wish, remembering his sister's greatest desire while alive. A memory of his smiling, white-haired sister appears as he admits her greatest wish was to send him to an academy, his expression bittersweet. His reflection is brief as he returns to grim reality, saying although, with a resigned sigh, he accepts his fate, saying he guesses a family reunion will happen soon. A sad, accepting smile plays on Ronan's lips as he quietly waits for the end. Adeshan says a search party will come after the rain, but Ronan rejects it, believing he is beyond saving. He looks away with a firm gaze and tells her not to give him false hope. Suddenly, a deep rumbling sound echoes through the blood-red sky, interrupting their conversation. As the rumbling continues, they notice the rain beginning to cease. The droplets stop in the air. Ronan and Adeshan both look up, their eyes wide with shock and confusion at the sudden, unnatural change in the weather. Ronan rises, staring at the sky in disbelief as he realizes the storm has ended. A massive boom shakes the very ground beneath them, the impact causing the landscape to tremble. The violent rumbling continues as a blinding light emanates from above. Thrown off balance, Ronan cries out in alarm. Struggling to understand, Ronan shouts what is happening. His eyes widen in sheer terror as he finally sees the source of the light and sound. A colossal angelic figure with horns and 8 wings descends, radiating golden light, and Ronan gasps at the sight. A multitude of angelic beings fills the sky, some humanoid with horns, others with mask-like faces, and a single glowing red eye. The air is filled with the powerful whoosh of countless wings beating in unison as the celestial army descends. The entire sky is now teeming with these terrifying, godlike entities, their presence completely eclipsing the battlefield. Ronan struggles to process the sight, thinking in disbelief who they are. Ronan stands before the wounded Adeshan, staring at the heavenly army and asking where they came from. Adeshan's face shows despair as she murmurs in horror that the three giants may have been only the beginning. Hope fades from Adeshan's face as she reflects that this was her third chance and she failed again. She sinks deeper into despair, convinced her final chance will be no different. Her eyes wide with terror, she faces the overwhelming beings above as Ronan cries out her title, Marshal. Seeing Adeshan frozen in despair, Ronan shouts her title, Grand Marshal, to break her shock. His eyes blaze with fury as he yells at her to snap out of it and use telekinesis to send him up, unable to reach them with his sword. Adeshan is startled, stammering what, and Ronan demands if they are not going to kill those beings. Adeshan looks at him, bewildered by his spirit, asking if he still wants to fight, and Ronan retorts that of course he does, questioning if she would rather wait to be killed. Ronan grips his sword with fierce resolve, declaring that if he is going to die anyway, he swings his sword with a fierce cry, vowing to take several of them down with him. Adeshan watches, her despair turning to awe as she realizes that despite all odds, he refuses to give up. Watching Ronan's unyielding expression, she recalls his nature, realizing that determination is what brought him this far. Seeing Ronan face the impossible, she thinks that perhaps there might be hope for him. A single tear of resolve traces a path down her blood-stained cheek. She has made her decision. She calls his name and touches his shoulder, and Ronan, annoyed and focused, snaps, "What is it now?" Ronan tries to shrug her off, saying he is busy, but pauses when he sees her eyes. Before he can react, Adeshan pulls him close, her face just inches from his own. Ronan is completely stunned. She embraces him tightly, and Ronan, bewildered, asks what is going on. Adeshan swiftly forces a small glowing blue orb into his mouth, and Ronan, shocked, asks what she just did. She then leans in and whispers a secret message directly into his ear. Ronan is baffled by her words. What are you talking about?" He glares at her, unable to understand her cryptic message or actions in such a dire moment. He shouts in frustration that there is no time for nonsense. Ignoring his protests, Adeshan firmly pushes him away from her. Ronan stumbles back, shocked, as she calls his name one last time, Corporal Ronan. She speaks calmly with a sense of peace, saying if he runs into her again. A vision of her in a simpler life appears as she asks him to tell her to stick to being a tailor instead of wasting her time. Back in the present, Ronan watches in shock as a brilliant blue light envelopes Adeshan, who thinks that she has tried everything she could. With a serene smile, Adeshan closes her eyes, accepting that nothing worked as she had hoped. Ronan can only watch, his eye reflecting the brilliant blue light emanating from the Grand Marshal. An angelic unleashes a massive blue orb of power towards the pair. The energy erupts in a cataclysmic explosion of light, completely engulfing the battlefield and everyone on it. Ronan is caught in the violent, swirling vortex of the angelic being's attack. The glowing blue orb she gave him floats alone in a dark, empty space, representing his journey through the unknown. Ronan gasps, his eyes snapping open as if waking from a long nightmare. Instead of a blood-red sky, he sees bright white clouds and calls out, "G Grand," disoriented. He shouts her title, Grand Marshal, as he rises, feeling his hand on soft green grass. He looks around, taking in the serene, sunlit field that has replaced the war-torn landscape. He sees a peaceful village by a river and thinks in disbelief that this can't be. He sees children playing on a raft, their laughter echoing, and wonders how this is possible. He looks down at his hand, clean, unscarred, and resting on the vibrant blades of grass under a warm sun. He turns, noticing for the first time that his blood-soaked uniform is gone, replaced by a simple, clean gray tunic. His mind races as he wonders if this peaceful place is his hometown, Nimberton. He sits there, completely bewildered, trying to make sense of the peaceful world around him, so different from the hell he just left. He realizes he may have traveled back in time, marked as day one of Ronan's return to the past. In a peaceful green field, Ronan sits under a large tree, letting out a heavy sigh. He holds his head, unable to believe that the Grand Marshal's words were true. His mind flashes back to that very moment, starting with his own confusion. Ronan, wounded, is in Grand Marshal Addison's arms, confused about what is happening. Suddenly, Addison forces a glowing object into his mouth. Shocked, Ronan demands to know what she just made him swallow. Addison explains that the object he swallowed is known as the Orb of Time. She reveals that the orb is the very secret that allowed her, a mere seamstress, to rise to the esteemed position of Grand Marshal. She rises from a simple tailor to a decorated soldier and then Grand Marshal, empowered by an orb that lets its user go back in time 4 times. However, Ade-san confesses that she has already used 3 of her chances, leaving only 1 opportunity left. With a determined look in her eyes, she tells Ronan that she decided to give that final, precious chance to him. She chose him because he possesses the rare power to slay the giants that threaten their existence. She places her faith in him, believing he might just be the key to preventing the end of their world. Ade-san whispers that he'll need to hone his abilities to do so, but she's confident in his ambition. Ronan, caught off guard by her faith in him, absent-mindedly says he wishes he could study at an academy, then quickly gets flustered for thinking out loud. Ade-san encourages him, suggesting he go to the Phil-Eon Academy, a place filled with outstanding warriors who could help him grow stronger. As her life fades, Ade-san has one last favor to ask of Corporal Ronan. Her form fades as she makes her final request. If you run into me again, she asks to be told to stick to tailoring instead of wasting time, smiles at her past self, then vanishes. The flashback ends, leaving Ronan alone amid devastation as angelic figures descend. He mutters that he's tried everything. In his previous lives, nothing worked as he had hoped. Back in the present moment, Ronan holds his head, overwhelmed by the reality of his situation, cursing under his breath. He shouts in disbelief, asking if this is really happening or if he's dreaming. In his frustration, he starts punching the tree, startling 2 passers-by. He screams in frustration, questioning why Ade-san sent him back in time and what he should do alone. He pauses, leans against a tree, and realizes he is back in time. The gears in his mind turn. He grasps a wooden stick and realizes he has another chance. With newfound resolve, Ronan gets up, leaving the shade of the tree behind. He takes a firm step forward, his mind set on a single crucial goal. The thought burns in his mind. He has another chance to save his sister. Clutching the wooden stick, Ronan breaks into a run, propelled by a desperate hope. He sprints through the bustling streets of the town, pushing past the oblivious crowds. A determined smile plays on his lips. He knows that if this is truly the past, a familiar event should be taking place just up ahead. His eyes are sharp and focused, scanning the area for the scene he knows is coming. Just as he remembered, he arrives at a clearing and finds a group of punks tormenting someone. A boy is hanging upside down from a tree. He watches as a blonde bully with a cruel grin taunts the poor kid hanging from the tree. Ronan lets out a weary sigh. It seems some people never change, confirming that he recognizes these bullies from his previous life. But as he's about to turn away, something catches his eye, and he looks back in surprise. He takes a closer look and realizes with a jolt that the boy isn't hanging from a rope. He's being held upside down by magic. Ronan is taken aback. He knows that such powerful magic is rare, even within the ranks of the army. A memory sparks in his mind, something he'd forgotten from this time period. He suddenly remembers. There was someone with that unique ability in this very town at this point in the past. He notices the source of the magic. A timid red-haired girl, Asel, struggling to maintain the spell with glowing hands. Asel trembles, nervously asking how much longer she must hold the boy in the air. She's terrified that if this continues, it could become dangerous for him. From the victim's perspective, sweat drips down his face as he desperately pleads for them to stop. The bullied boy cries out, swearing that he has no money because he spent everything he had on his mother's medicine. The blonde bully leader callously pats the boy's cheek, mockingly asking why that should be his problem. He chuckles cruelly, telling the boy to just empty his pockets and sneeringly asking if he looks like someone who cares about his mother. His demeanor darkens as he rears his hand and snarls at him. He strikes the boy across the face, shouting at him to make more money. His lackeys snicker in the background, enjoying the cruel display of violence. The blonde bully shouts at Asel, breaking her concentration. He orders Acel to lift the boy to the top of the tree, calling him a numbskull. Acel protests, afraid of dropping him, but the bully scoffs, saying she isn't the one hanging. His face twists with rage as he snarls at Acel to lift him. He adds a chilling threat to hang her up there as well, filling Acel with terror. Her eyes widen in horror as she wonders how she ended up in this situation, filled with regret and wishing she had never learned magic in the first place. A flashback shows Acel happily demonstrating her magic to an applauding crowd, wanting to prove her skill. Torn between her fear and her conscience, she knows she has to tell him she can't do it, but her hands tremble uncontrollably. She winces as the thought of defying him fills her with dread. She's just so scared. Biting her lip, she gathers her courage, steeling herself. No matter how scared she is, she has to tell him. Facing the two smirking bullies, she prepares to plead with them to stop. Just as Acel is about to give in, a wooden stick suddenly flashes through the air, aimed right at her hands. Ronan strikes her hands, shouting that she might kill the boy, making her cry out in pain. The impact breaks Acel's concentration, and the magical energy holding the boy aloft dissipates. The bullied boy crashes to the ground with a heavy thud as the bullies watch in shock. The blonde bully turns, his face a mask of fury, demanding to know what the hell Ronan thinks he's doing. He stomps to Acel, accusing her of failing the boy for following a stranger, and asks if she thinks he's a pushover as she stammers. Before the bully reaches her, Ronan steps between them and tells Acel to forget the loser. He stands protectively with his stick. Acel looks up, shocked, and says his name. Ronan ignores the fuming bully in the background and focuses entirely on Acel, telling her he has some questions for her. While the bully shouts, Ronan asks where she learned telekinesis. Acel nervously says from a magic book bought from a traveling merchant. Ronan is stunned. He can't believe she got this good at telekinesis with just a cheap old magic book. He thinks to himself that her ability is impressive, and that he'll need to test it more. He contemplates how her power, though seemingly minor now, could be incredibly useful in the future fight against the giants. As Ronan is lost in thought, the blonde bully, enraged at being ignored, stealthily draws his sword from his belt. Ronan glances sideways, catching the faint sound of the blade being unsheathed. Acel looks on in terror, realizing the bully has a sword. Infuriated, the bully shouts, "How dare you look down on me?" as he prepares to strike. He sneers, claiming Ronan was lucky he let him off easy so many times before. He lunges forward, vowing to make Ronan pay for his insolence. With a powerful downward slash, the bully brings his long sword swinging towards Ronan. Ronan calmly watches the blade, noting it's a real long sword and wonders where a street thug got it. He internally criticizes the bully's terrible technique, acknowledging that in the world of street fights, brute strength is often all that matters. Ronan sidesteps easily, thinking the sword won't work against him. The bully is stunned, unable to comprehend how Ronan dodged his attack so effortlessly. Ronan smirks, his old skills intact from harsh training as a penal soldier. His combat instincts, honed through countless battles, manifest as a vision of his former self. The bully scoffs, dismissing the dodge as pure luck. Ronan plays along, agreeing that it was pretty lucky and that he wishes he'd had some of that luck before. Feeling challenged, the bully raises his sword and demands Ronan kneel and beg, offering freedom only if he gives up an arm. The bully points his sword at Ronan, which he sarcastically says he's scared. The bully leans in with a sinister chuckle and threatens to take care of Ronan's sister if he dies. Ronan stops him, asking calmly if he said his sister. The bully confirms, laughing about seeing her sometimes. In an instant, Ronan's demeanor changes. His eyes flash red with pure rage as he unleashes his killing intent. Before anyone can react, there is a flash of movement and a spray of blood. Blood spurts from the side of the bully's head as a look of shock crosses his face. The top half of his ear, cleanly severed, flies through the air as he stares blankly, not yet processing what happened. The bully's sword clatters to the ground, disarmed in an instant. A wave of pain finally hits him, and he lets out a blood-curdling scream. He clutches the side of his head, screaming in agony about his ear, while his terrified friends begin to retreat. Ronan takes a slow, deliberate step forward, his presence utterly menacing. Ronan looms over the screaming bully, furious and scolding him. His eyes glow with fury as he snarls at the bully about his sister. He leans closer and delivers a chilling threat, asking if he should cut his throat right there. The tense scene continues as Ronan stands coldly over the blonde bully Hans, holding only a tree branch, while his cronies and a shaken Asel watch in shock. The bullies retreat in fear, shocked as one realizes that Ronan has cut off an ear. The question lingers as a close-up shows the tree branch dripping with blood, confirming the brutal reality of Ronan's action. Ronan turns his piercing gaze on the terrified group and coldly asks if they enjoyed the show, startling the bullies. Without waiting, Ronan kicks Hans in the face and orders them to take him and leave, warning they will be next. Hans trembles on the ground, clutching his bleeding ear. Ronan demands they return the stolen money and add extra for angering him. From above, Hans lies defeated and agrees to give the money as his friends watch, unable to intervene. A voice offers the money, saying it belongs to him. The scene shifts to the freckled boy holding a heavy pouch of coins. Wide-eyed in shock, he asks if it is really his. The boy is stunned at receiving far more than was taken. Ronan, now holding a proper sword, dismisses his concern and tells him to keep it, saying it is enough for him. The boy clutches the money, overwhelmed with gratitude, while Ronan assures him the bullies won't return. Ronan, uncomfortable with the emotion, waves it off and tells the boy to go home. Asel timidly calls out to him. Ronan turns, surprised. Asel stands before him, wringing her hands and fidgeting nervously, clearly wanting to say something important. A close-up on her face shows her inner turmoil. A bead of sweat drips down as she struggles to form the words. She finally speaks, remorseful, saying she is really sorry. Asel then bows deeply to both Ronan and the boy, a clear gesture of her sincere apology. A flashback shows her remembering Hans's threatening face and words, saying he would hurt her if she didn't help. She recalls her guilt and powerlessness, admitting it was wrong of her. Tears fill her eyes as she recalls being scared. The memory ends with her feeling helpless, saying she couldn't stop herself. Back in the present, Asel cries, overwhelmed by guilt, apologizing repeatedly. The freckled boy laughs softly, signaling he doesn't blame her. Instead of anger, the boy smiles gently and empathetically, addressing her. Asel, I noticed you're always crying. He explains her tears relate to their shared tormentor, Hans, making Asel flinch, but his words are understanding, not accusing. The bullied boy speaks kindly, telling Asel her tears show she isn't the only one being picked on. He tells her she's in the same boat as him, and Asel softens with gratitude and relief. He pats her head gently, telling her not to be too hard on herself, showing surprising maturity. His final words reassure her, it's not your fault. With the matter settled, the boy breaks into a bright, genuine smile, clutching the pouch of money that will help his family. He places a hand on Asel's shoulder, accepting her apology, while Ronan watches neutrally, happily clutching his newfound money. The boy runs off towards the village in the distance, leaving Ronan and Asel behind. Now alone with Ronan, Asel gives a small, shy wave as the boy departs. Ronan, however, remains perfectly still, his expression unchanged. The atmosphere shifts. A sudden close-up on Ronan's intense, golden eyes signals that the gentle moment is over. Asel looks up at him, her cheeks slightly flushed. She seems momentarily captivated, a sparkle in her eyes. Ronan chuckles quietly as the boy leaves, thinking there may be hope for him after all. Ronan's demeanor shifts, speaking sharply and seriously, saying he needs to talk. He bumps her shoulder, jolting her. She stammers, startled. Huh? Oh, right. Ronan turns coldly, telling her to meet him here in 3 days. Asel is stunned, asking what. He walks away, waving dismissively, saying he's busy and to meet in 3 days, mockingly adding to meet when the moon comes up, leaving Asel confused. His face twists into a menacing glare as he subtly draws his sword, warning her of the consequences if she doesn't show up. Asel lets out a frightened eek. He leaves with a final threat, warning her not to be late, then vanishes in a burst of speed, leaving Asel speechless. Asel stands alone, dazed and bewildered by his sudden personality shift, wondering what it was about. The scene transitions, and we now see Ronan approaching a quaint, peaceful-looking house nestled in a sun-dappled forest. This is his home. As he walks, a thought strikes him. Come to think of it, he thinks the flowers might be a bit much, imagining a sparkling bouquet of pink roses. Ronan blushes, heart thumping, holding the flowers. His tough exterior softens as he recalls his sister liked them, so he picked some on the way. Embarrassed, He decides the flowers are a silly idea and turns to discard them, when a quiet, "Huh," comes from the doorway. The door creaks open, revealing a woman's feet in sandals. A gentle voice calls, wondering who is outside. His sister Iriel opens the door, saying she didn't know it was Ronan. Caught in the act, Ronan freezes, the bouquet of roses feeling incredibly awkward in his hands as his sister, Iriel, spots him from the doorway. Before he can react, she exclaims, "You're back!" Ronan stares, flustered and wide-eyed. Seeing his sister triggers a memory from his past life. He recalls fighting as a penal soldier and thinking it over thousands of times. He recalls the question that haunted him, what to say to his sister and whether to apologize for leaving without telling her. The memory shows his former self, battle-worn and covered in blood, agonizing over this regret. The pain of that time is still palpable. Contrasts his hardened soldier self from the past with his young present self, showing he has left the old self behind. All the past agonizing is behind him. Now, he knows there's only one thing he can say to her. Back in the present, Iriel beams, unaware of his inner turmoil, saying he came home early. A close-up on Ronan's eye shows a flicker of intense emotion and determination. Ronan sets aside past regrets, looks at his sister, holds out the flowers and says, "I'm back." Later at the dinner table, Iriel, still overjoyed, thinks she never imagined seeing this day. She hugs the bouquet, marveling at the flowers from her grumpy little brother. She squeals with joy, shouting she's so happy, while an embarrassed Ronan clears his throat. He stammers, "I'm glad you like them." Iriel showers him with affection, piling his bowl high. Ronan waves frantically, insisting he's had enough. Ronan changes the subject, asking her age. Iriel, puzzled, says she's 22 and asks why. He awkwardly claims he forgot. Iriel is astonished, asking how he could forget. Her surprise turns to worry as she asks if he has a headache or fever, but Ronan is lost in thought, repeating, "My sister is 22? The weight of her age hits him. He grimly thinks there are about 10 years left until the bastards attack, envisioning a monstrous angelic figure as the future threat. As Ronan is lost in his dark thoughts, Iriel gently places her hand on his forehead to check his temperature, pulling him back to the present. She checks him, saying he doesn't have a fever. Her touch fills him with peace, and he thinks his sister is exactly as he remembers. His heart swells with affection as he thinks she's still so bright. He thinks she's still kind as Iriel fusses over him, asking if he's all right. He thinks of her as warm-hearted. Watching the peaceful moment, Ronan quietly wishes it could last forever, contrasting with the dark future he foresees. The peaceful moment ends. Ronan's resolve hardens as he squeezes his sister's hand, thinking he must protect her and the world in 10 years. He pulls back his hand, serious, and tells Iriel he has something to say. She, caught off guard, asks what it is. Ronan smiles calmly and confidently, declaring he plans to enter an academy. Iriel is shocked, eyes wide, repeating, "What? An academy?" Her shock turns to joy as she exclaims, "Seriously?" Her sparkling eyes startle Ronan. She grabs his hands, swinging them in excitement, asking if he means it. Ronan, overwhelmed, confirms he does. Her excitement is mixed with confusion. "You never wanted to hear about academies before. Why the sudden change of heart?" she declares. "There's no time to lose," and scurries away, leaving a sweating, bewildered Ronan at the table. As she rummages, she exclaims he's a genius and slams a heavy, cloth-wrapped object on the floor. Ronan weakly thanks her. She shouts, "Here!" with a flourish. With a loud slam, she places a massive cauldron on the floor in front of Ronan, who looks on in total confusion. She proudly announces, "This is a surprise gift for you." Panting from carrying the heavy pot, they peer inside. Ronan asks, unsure what to expect. The cauldron overflows with sparkling gold coins. Ronan is stunned as Iriel giggles, revealing she saved them secretly to surprise him. She explains she saved it in case he changed his mind to send him to an academy. Ronan, deeply touched, asks in amazement how she saved so much. Grateful but hesitant, he tries to refuse, saying she should use the money herself and it isn't enough. Iriel is shocked. She insists it's enough for any academy, but Ronan names his goal, the Philion Imperial Academy. Iriel's confident smile vanishes, replaced by stunned confusion. She screams in shock. "What?" Their humble home shook, hinting at the Academy's enormous cost. The story introduces the esteemed Philion Imperial Academy. A magnificent view shows the Academy, the leading educational institute and best in the Empire. The Academy has the continent's best teachers and imperial funding, providing top-quality education. The Academy's reputation is so great that people even refer to it as a hero factory. It has produced legends: Grand Marshal Ade-san, Swordmaster Schlieffen, and the notorious Winter Witch. Recalling the war, the narrator acknowledges that Philion's warriors played a significant role. Ronan walks through a forest at night, thinking the Academy's entrance standards and tuition are impossibly high. Ronan recalls his sister's worried but encouraging reaction to his decision, which he found a bit over the top. He suddenly stops in his tracks. With pure determination, Ronan resolves to prove himself by entering the Academy. Ronan senses someone nearby and remarks that he didn't expect them to actually show up. A young, flustered girl appears. Ronan playfully calls her Marcel, but she shyly corrects him. Acel. Ronan smirks, reminding Acel of her threat, but dismisses it, saying they shouldn't dwell on the past. He drops his backpack, announcing a busy night ahead to test her, leaving Acel taken aback. Acel looks shocked as Ronan explains that it's nothing too serious. He points to himself and orders Acel to use telekinesis on him. With a devilish grin, Ronan challenges her to lift him as high as she possibly can. Stunned and sweating, Acel questions his bizarre request, asking why she would do that. She expresses her concern, asking if it isn't dangerous. Ronan casually dismisses her worries, telling her to just do as he says for now. He reassures her that it won't kill him. With a groan of hesitation, Acel reluctantly agrees. She brings her hands together, gathering blue magic, and nervously says, "Here goes nothing." Acel unleashes her power, casting a spell called Invisible Hand that surrounds Ronan in a powerful vortex of energy. Ronan is caught in the bright blue aura of her telekinesis, his eyes wide with surprise. His feet float as Acel's magic takes hold. Ronan thinks her power is stronger than he expected. With a powerful surge, Acel's telekinesis launches Ronan high into the air, the force of it surprising him. From high above, Ronan looks down at Acel on the ground as her telekinetic energy swirls around him. Suspended in the air, Ronan thinks the feeling, though unstable, is like fighting the giants. He recalls a similar telekinesis spell that once allowed him to fight a monstrous being named Ahayuti high up in the air. A memory flashes of him in battle, his eyes glowing red with intensity, as he realizes this feeling is exactly what he was hoping for. Back in the present, Ronan smirks, thinking that mages are hard to find, but a telekinesis user is an even rarer talent among them. He concludes that finding Acel is great news. Looking at Acel concentrating, he realizes she'll be crucial in his future battle against the giants. A sly grin spreads across Ronan's face as he thinks to himself, well, he remarks that they're off to a good start, just as Acel begins to strain, telling him she's starting to get tired. Acel asks if she can let him down now, but Ronan, with a menacing glint in his eye, tells her to hang on a little longer as he wants to check one more thing. He then startles her by saying he'll come down on his own. Confused and stammering, Acel asks how he plans on doing that. In response, Ronan grips the hilt of his sword and draws the blade. He swings his sword in a wide, clean arc. Suddenly, Acel's telekinetic hold shatters, and she stares in disbelief, wondering what just happened. As Ronan lands gracefully on the ground, Acel realizes in shock that he managed to cut through her mana. She confronts him, demanding to know what he just did. Ronan nonchalantly dusts himself off, dismissing his incredible feat as no big deal, and just a little trick I've always been able to do. Acel objects, stating she's never heard of anyone cutting through mana, but Ronan interrupts her by bonking her on the head, telling her to forget it. As he sheathes his sword, he thinks learning more about this strange ability is another mission. He reflects that this unique power is likely the reason his sword alone was able to cut that damn giant in his past life. Ronan sets those thoughts aside, focusing on more important business as he approaches his bags. There's more important business to take care of. He grabs a different pack from the ground and tells Acel that she has passed the test. He tosses the heavy bag to a surprised Acel, telling her to come with him before the moon goes down. Acel hesitates, noting it's dark, but Ronan grins sharply and asks, "So what?" He declares this will be the first chapter in the tale of Ronan, a story that will be remembered forever in the Empire's history. As they begin to walk, A nervous Asel hurries to catch up, asking if he was talking about the Philion Academy. Panting for breath, she asks if he truly meant they were going to the academy that only accepts the Empire's most elite warriors. She asks if he's really taking her. Ronan, impatient, snaps that she heard right and her questions annoy him. He asks if she doesn't want to go, but Asel clarifies that's not the issue. She fidgets nervously, explaining that since Ronan is a gifted fighter, he'll be fine, but she's not good at anything. She admits she is cowardly and timid. Ronan hardens, calls her name, and asks if she wants to live like this forever. He continues, questioning if she wants to keep wasting her natural-born talent on dealing with petty street thugs. Alone in darkness, Asel looks vulnerable as Ronan asks if that is the life she wants. As Asel stammers, Ronan bluntly admits that she has a long way to go, and that it's true she's cowardly and timid. His harsh words strike her like daggers as he calls her a crybaby who sheds tears too easily and a wimp who's afraid of her own shadow. Seeing her hurt expression, Ronan softens his tone slightly, saying that her weaknesses don't really matter because she can change all of that later. His expression turns serious as he tells Asel the time she wastes cannot be changed. He passes her, warning that she will regret it someday. His eye narrows as he adds that she will regret it just like he did. A vision of a desolate past hits Asel as Ronan confesses it was in his previous life. Back in the present, Ronan pats a stunned Asel on the shoulder and asks if he is changing her mind. Asel struggles to believe if someone as intense and distant as Ronan what. He shows concern for her. Seeing her astonishment, Ronan says he won't force it and she can go back if she wants. He turns and begins to walk away, stating he has things to do, leaving a conflicted Asel to make her choice. As he leaves, Asel calls for him, declaring she wants to change. She fully commits, vowing to go with him to Philion and to do whatever he asks. A satisfied smirk appears on Ronan's face. He praises her, saying she's finally starting to grow up, then immediately suggests they get started with her first challenge. Asel agrees, unaware Ronan inwardly celebrates that his manipulation worked. He leads her through the forest until they come across the warm crackle of a campfire. Suddenly, a chill runs down Asel's spine as she senses they are not alone. Peeking through bushes, they see the fire. Asel asks if this is her first challenge, and Ronan nods. He explains that this is the best opponent he could find to give her skills an instant boost. The opponent is revealed. A muscular, yellow-skinned creature with a green mohawk, identified as a Luna Goblin, sits idly by the fire. The view pans out to reveal not just one, but a whole group of these Luna Goblins lounging around a cave, surrounded by bones and a treasure chest. Ronan cheerfully asks what she thinks, joking it's easy. Asel trembles, asking how. Ignoring her fear, Ronan's eyes glow yellow with a wicked grin. Ronan and Asel watch from bushes at a hulking mutant goblin. Known as Luna Goblins, they are distinguished from their common counterparts by their hideous, yellowish bodies. But their most defining trait is a deep, insatiable obsession with treasure. They are ruthless bandits, attacking merchants and plundering their valuables without a moment's hesitation. After a raid, they gather their stolen loot. They throw a party, reveling in their spoils. These festivities happen only on full moon nights, with treasure glittering. Asel realizes, asking if that's why they came tonight. Ronan confirms that's right. A wicked grin spreads across Ronan's face as he reveals the true purpose of their visit. Tonight they are going to steal all the treasure. Asel is incredulous, never hearing of goblins that steal treasure and party. She asks how he knew. He says he heard it somewhere, thinking he can't tell her he saw them in a past life. Ronan grabs Asel, his eyes sharp as he explains the plan. She must use telekinesis to move the sleeping goblin's treasure into his bag. Asel is terrified. The plan doesn't sound easy at all. She worries about the consequences if she makes a mistake and wakes them. Her imagination runs wild, picturing the immense danger they would be in if they were caught by the monstrous goblins. She tries to protest, calling the plan too risky, but Ronan cuts her off with a sharp insult, calling her a coward. Ronan flicks her forehead, explaining they need two things to enter Philion Academy. The first, he states plainly, is money. Tuition at Philion is high, but more important is real combat experience. While money can be acquired, it's the hands-on experience of battle that truly matters. He reminds her Philion is full of aristocrats' children trained from birth. Asel worries as Ronan says if they want to compete, there's only one path. His eyes gleam as he declares she must risk her life for real combat experience. He smirks, saying the goblins are perfect targets because they gain money and experience at once, looking down at the sleeping goblin. He asks if she has a better idea. Overwhelmed, Asel protests weakly. Ronan cuts her off, saying it's settled. Ronan pats Asel, grinning, saying let's get started. Under the moonlight, Asel uses telekinesis, a blue aura lifting the goblin's treasure. The valuables clank as they drop into the bag, filling it with coins and jewelry. Ronan encourages as Asel lifts more items, including a dagger and pendant. Asel concentrates, her face scrunched up in effort as her glowing hands guide the stream of coins and artifacts into the bag. At Ronan's command, she prepares to drop the next batch of loot, which includes a pearl necklace and a gleaming dagger. The treasures tumble into the bag, and Ronan smiles, murmuring excellent. He peeks into the full bag, smiling, saying that takes care of the treasure. Their mission is a success. Both bags are filled to the brim with glittering gold and precious items. Ronan ruffles Asel's hair, praising her, saying nothing beats real experience. Asel, flushed, can't believe she did it. Ronan thinks he wasn't sure Asel could do it, but is surprised how quickly she adapted. He concludes she's more talented than he thought. Asel proudly thinks, I did it. A sinister smile spreads across Ronan's face. While Asel celebrates, he gloats he found the perfect accomplice. Ronan secures the bags, saying let's go. Asel, relieved, asks if that's it. Ronan confirms that their work is done and that it's time for them to head back. Famous last words. He adds that they should leave before they get themselves into any trouble. But just as he says that, a dark shape whooshes through the trees, breaking the silence of the night. Suddenly, two hunters burst into the clearing, one shouting in frustration. They are chasing after the bird that just flew by, yelling, "Hey, you goddamn bird!" The two men, one an archer and the other a swordsman, carelessly continue their noisy pursuit through the forest. Their loud shouting startles both Ronan and Asel, who were just about to make their escape. Ronan looks annoyed, wondering what kind of fool is making so much noise in the middle of the night. The commotion is so loud that it begins to stir one of the sleeping Luna goblins. Disturbed by hunters shouting, a goblin stirs, noticing its treasure chest wide open. The sleepiness vanishes, replaced by shock. Seeing the empty chest, the goblin roars in fury. The goblin shrieks thief, instantly waking the other goblins. The camp erupts into chaos as the goblins swarm, demanding the thief. Just then, a rustle in the nearby bushes draws their attention, and the goblins turn in unison towards the sound. In the distance, framed by the dark trees, Ronan and Asel are exposed. Their escape has been cut off. The goblins' eyes lock onto the two figures. Their snarling faces leave no doubt about their hostile intentions.
Ronan muterachit, sweeting.
Asel freezes in terror. Ronan realizes they are in big trouble as the enraged horde of goblins begins to charge directly at them. Asel lets out a terrified scream as the monstrous creatures close the distance. She slumps, overwhelmed. Ronan sighs, dropping the bags, lamenting nothing goes smoothly. Asel panics, urging Ronan to run. He stands firm, drawing his sword, saying they leave nothing behind. He coldly reminds her of their goal, asking how they'll pay tuition without the treasure. Asel tries to argue that money isn't important right now, but it's too late. The first wave of goblins lunges forward to attack. Asel screams they're right there, surrounded by snarling goblins. Ronan narrows his eyes, calculating his sword can likely take one goblin in 15 hits. His gaze sweeps over the battlefield. The problem is, there must be at least 30 of them. A goblin reaches for him. Asel cries Ronan in horror. She screams, watch out. The goblin's claws near his face, but Ronan thinks 15 hits. With a smirk, he thinks that's more than enough. In a flash, Ronan's sword blurs, decapitating the foremost goblin. He continues, cutting down several more goblins, their heads flying into the sky. Asel watches in horror as a severed goblin head lands at her feet. Blood splatters his cheek. Over the corpse, he notes with a smirk it was the 14th slash. The chapter opens with a sword piercing a goblin's head, blood splattering. Ronan, hand dripping blood, looks on with cold golden eyes, remarking if that was the last one. From a distance, Asel sits horrified at the carnage and Ronan's calmness. Her eyes are wide with shock and disbelief as she internally questions what she just witnessed. Her mind recalls Ronan charging in, killing the 3 lead goblins in a single strike. From her perspective, it was like Ronan simply disappeared for a moment. In that instant, he became a whirlwind of death, his blade flashing with red light as he cut down multiple goblins at once. Then suddenly, he reappeared out of nowhere. In a final slash, he decapitated the last goblins. Back in the present, Asel gulps, the terrifying memory still fresh in her mind. Under the full moon, Ronan stands among goblin corpses, thinking about their number. He turns to Asel, asking what she's doing. She jumps, apologizing for being lost in thought. Ronan tells her there's no need to apologize and instructs her to just grab her stuff. With his sword on his shoulder, he smiles faintly, saying they're going home. The weight of the heavy backpack is emphasized as they begin their journey back. Walking through the woods, Ronan sighs, complaining nothing is easy. Asel, drained, whines about her heavy bag. Ronan touches his shoulder, feeling sore, wondering if he's out of shape. While rotating his arm to ease the soreness, he resolves to start some hardcore training when he gets back. Asel, looking concerned, asks Ronan about a shout they heard earlier. He nonchalantly dismisses it, telling her he has no idea what it was. A loud voice from the darkness commands them to stop, startling Ronan and Asel. Ronan mutters to himself in annoyance, wondering what kind of fool would shout like that in the middle of the night. Vowing to punish the troublemaker, an archer in shadows aims a bow with a red crystal arrow. The arrow is loosed with a sharp twang, the red crystal tip gleaming as it speeds directly towards an unsuspecting Asel. Time seems to slow as Asel's eyes widen in terror, her face frozen in a silent gasp as the projectile is just about to strike. Ronan shoves Asel aside, snatching the projectile midair, annoyed, asking what this now. Asel screams seeing Ronan hold the arrow inches from her face, its crystal tip with a strange face. Asel panics, wondering the arrow's origin. Ronan looks into the woods, darkly thinking about annoying pricks running at night. Two men emerge, one with a bow, the other with a sack. The blonde asks who they are. Ronan grits his teeth at the remark, a couple of kids. Asel watches, worried. The men approach, pretending friendliness. The archer raises a hand, apologizing. Whoops, sorry kiddos. The archer says they heard rustling, thinking they were a monster, but sees a bag of gold. The archer says they almost hurt them by accident. The blonde companion shrugs, agreeing. As the archer asks if they're okay, Ronan cuts him off, saying cut the bullshit, seeing the look in his eyes. The two men are taken aback. From between their legs, Ronan's voice is heard, demanding they drop the act and answer him. The frame closes on Ronan, golden eyes glowing with red aura, asking who the hell they are. The bandits' friendly smiles vanish, replaced with expressions of nervous surprise as they realize their act has been seen through. The archer laughs awkwardly, scratching the back of his head. He feigns embarrassment, saying he was so flustered that he forgot to introduce himself. But as he says he'll tell them who they are, his hand ominously moves towards the hilt of his weapon. Dropping pretense, the archer lunges, eyes red with intent, shouting there the Caribolo. The name registers with Ronan, reflection of the attacker in his eye, whispering Caribolo. At the same time, the blonde bandit moves to attack Ronan from the side, grabbing his arm. But Ronan is faster, his eyes glowing as he easily sidesteps the archer's lunge. Before the archer can react, Ronan delivers a powerful blow to his jaw, sending blood flying from his mouth. With a cold look, Ronan says with disgust, "You mean those assholes," confirming he knows their reputation. Enraged, the blonde charges at Ronan with a dagger, shouting, "You little punk." Asel looks up in terror as the blade of the dagger comes dangerously close. In a moment of pure panic for Ronan's safety, she screams his name is Blue. Crackling energy suddenly erupts from her hands. Asel yells, "Look out," unleashing her power. A blue wave, an invisible hand, wraps around the charging bandit. The blonde bandit is stopped, immobilized by Asel's telekinesis, struggling to understand why he can't move. Seeing the bandit frozen, Ronan grins, exclaiming, "Wow, Asel," impressed. Seizing the chance, Ronan shouts nice and lunges past the immobilized bandit. As he closes the distance, Ronan draws his own dagger with a swift, metallic ring. He slides low to the ground, easily evading the archer's defenses, his own blade ready for a killing strike. The paralyzed bandit watches as Ronan swings his sword at the defenseless archer. With a series of precise and deadly slashes, Ronan swiftly incapacitates the archer. The archer lets out a final scream as blood spurts into the air. Ronan glances back, his expression cold and calculating. Asel lets out a startled yelp and stumbles backward as the archer's lifeless body falls to the ground right in front of her. Staring at the dead man, Asel stammers, asking Ronan if he's dead. Ronan wipes blood from his cheek, saying what was he supposed to do? They were going to kill them. He reminds her they're from the Caribbean, jolting Asel into shock. Horrified, Asel recalls the gang's infamous crimes, from poaching to kidnapping. A montage flashes in her mind, showing the Caribbean as laughing, bloodthirsty criminals. She remembers with dread they're the most notorious gang in the Empire. Ronan coldly confirms that's exactly right. Turning his attention to the still paralyzed blonde bandit, Ronan shows no mercy, stabbing him through the chest with his dagger. As he delivers the finishing blow, Ronan coldly tells Asel that without him, they would have taken her organs. He finishes that they would have buried her tonight, wiping his bloody dagger on the corpse. Asel is left utterly speechless and horrified by the grim, yet undeniable logic of his statement. Ronan concludes letting them go is a greater crime. As the bandit falls, his eyes see the dropped sack twitching. A close-up shows the top of the mysterious bag, tied shut with strange, tentacle-like ropes, twitching and moving on its own. Ronan starts telling Asel to stop, but the bag's strange movements cut him off. The sack jumps into the air with a boing, surprising Ronan. As the bag flops, Asel asks what's inside and why it moves. Ronan guesses the bandits caught something. Asel guesses a poached animal. Ronan agrees and cautiously reaches to open the rustling bag. Ronan says let's open it. A hooded figure with glowing blue eyes glares at him from the bag. With a screech, the creature flies out of the bag as a shadowy blur, startling Ronan and Asel. In a flash, the creature transforms into a glowing blue bird. Ronan and Asel stare in awe, Ronan saying what the heck. As the bird flies into the night, Ronan wonders what kind of bird it is. A mystical blue bird materializes in a shower of light, startling Ronan and Asel. Asel, captivated by the sight, notes that the bird's feathers are a brilliant blue. The bird flaps its wings, chirping as it hovers in the air, revealing shackles chained to its feet. Asel exclaims to Ronan that she's never seen a blue bird before, to which he quietly agrees, his attention fixed on the creature. Ronan's sharp eyes narrow as he spots something unusual on the bird's legs. He mutters to himself, noticing the shackles. He immediately recognizes the device, identifying it as a Caribbean snare. He recalls that these types of shackles are designed to restrict a creature's movement and mana flow, and are commonly used by poachers. Ronan remembers hearing that poachers use these snares to capture rare and valuable animal species. As Ronan wonders if the blue bird is rare, a magical circle appears, and a voice tries to communicate. The voice exclaims that it's finally connected. As the spell fully activates, the bundle that held the bird drops to the ground, startling Asel. Shocked, Asel asks if the bird spoke. Ronan explains it's a communication spell, not a talking bird. Ronan deduces that the spell must have activated as soon as the bird was released from the bundle. He looks at the discarded bundle, concluding it must block mana. Ronan addresses the spell's voice, saying it must be the owner of the blue bird. A silhouette appears through the spell, confirming Ronan's guess. He is Baron, guardian of the dream bird Marps. Baron explains his frantic attempts to connect. Relieved Marps is safe, almost reporting it to the police. Baron then asks who they are. Ronan casually shoves Asel aside and replies that they're just a couple of good Samaritans who were passing by. He begins to explain, mentioning they ended up in a little scuffle as a brief, intense flashback shows him clashing with a poacher. Ronan explains Marps was with poachers, while a flashback shows him striking decisively. He clears his throat, memories of the violent fight flashing, deciding not to elaborate because they're too gruesome. Ronan's face is grim as he recalls the bloody encounter, the memory of his opponent's defeat still fresh. He cuts the story short, saying they saved the bird. Baron is shocked by the poachers and kidnapping. The shadowed form of Baron shows his distress and relief. He expresses his profound gratitude, saying he feared this might have been the case. Baron wonders how to repay them. Asel calls the bird adorable. Ronan asks how to send it back with shackled feet. He asks if unlocking the shackles will let it fly back. Baron confirms it probably will. Baron explains dreambirds have a homing instinct, flying back once released. Ronan draws his sword. With a single, swift motion, Ronan swings his sword, aiming for the shackles on the dreambird's feet. The mana-restricting shackles shatter into pieces, freeing the surprised dream bird, Marps. Sheathing his sword, Ronan calmly tells the little blue bird to fly back to its dad. He adds a light-hearted warning for the bird not to worry its owner like that ever again. In a comically sparkly scene, the dream bird looks up at Ronan with adoring, starry eyes and gives an affectionate tweet. But instead of flying away, the bird just tweets and then zips around, leaving Ronan confused. Ronan is baffled as the bird twitches its rear. Baron explains Marps wants him to pluck a feather as a sign to see her again. Estelle explains Dreambird feathers act like a compass. Ronan gently plucks a feather. Baron encourages Ronan to use the feather to visit him and Marps if he ever stops by the capital. With a final promise to reward Ronan for his troubles, the communication spell fades as Marps takes flight and soars away. Ronan comments on the bird's speed. As it disappears, Estelle asks what's in his hand. Ronan looks down with startled eyes, a bead of sweat running down his face. He mutters to himself, confused, saying he thought he felt something warm in his hand a moment ago. He looks at his empty palm, perplexed, asking what this. The camera pans out, showing Ronan and Estelle looking at the poacher's leftover bundle. The scene transitions, indicating that a few days have passed since the encounter with the Dreambird. The setting changes to a bustling, sunny market town, with horses and wagons indicating active trade. Workers are busy unloading crates from a cart, establishing the atmosphere of a busy trading post. A merchant inspects a teardrop-shaped blue gem, admiring its craftsmanship through his monocle. The merchant, Duan Caravel, head of Caravel Trading, calls the necklace a treasure, offering 20 gold coins. Duan exclaims it's his lucky day, showing a bag overflowing with gold coins from Ronan's items. Ronan grins, pleased, with Estelle by his side. He thinks to himself that he's finally found a reasonable merchant. He recalls frustration with swindling merchants, flashback showing him confronting one while Estelle tries to calm him. Back in the present, Ronan shakes Duan's hand, smiling at the honest merchant. Duan laughs, accepting the compliment. Duan asks if there is anything else to be appraised. Ronan agrees and says he has one more thing, rummaging in his pouch. Ronan presents a mysterious, galaxy-patterned sphere. He explains that it isn't for sale, but he wants Duan to identify what it is. In a flashback, Ronan remembers the night this object was laid in his hand by the blue Dreambird. He recalls looking at the glowing sphere in his hand, a strange and magical object. His first thought was disgust, thinking the bird pooped in his hand. Amusing Estelle, yelling ugh gross, Ronan angrily tosses the sphere at a rock. To his shock, the tiny sphere smashed the large rock into pieces, remaining completely unscathed. Staring at the crater, Ronan and Estelle were left stunned, realizing just how incredibly strong and durable the mysterious object was. Back in the present, Duan inspects the sphere, admitting that he isn't sure if it's an egg or some other object. Ronan gulps, hoping the sphere from a rare species is a priceless treasure. Duan hums thoughtfully, examining the sphere's unique color and texture with a focused eye. Ronan's heart pounds with excitement and anticipation, hoping for a monumental discovery. After a pause, Duan asks if it's horse dung. Ronan's excitement instantly shatters. Ronan forces a smile and denies it, while Duan laughs, admitting he was just kidding. He confesses he's not sure what it is, but it's definitely unusual. Duan says Ronan should have a specialist examine it. Ronan groans, staring at the purple egg. Ronan decides he's too curious to sell it. Estelle giggles, whispering if it's just a hard piece of poo. Ronan asks Duan if he sells books about Philion. Seeing Duan confused, he clarifies he means the academy. Ronan explains they hope to take the entrance exam but know nothing. Duan is delighted, calling it great news. Duan then reveals that his own daughter is also applying for Philion and could probably help them. As he speaks, footsteps can be heard approaching. He mentions that his daughter should be back any minute, just as a young woman's voice is heard asking what's going on. The young woman asks who Ronan and Estelle are, and Duan smiles, remarking that her timing is perfect. Duan introduces the young blonde woman as his only daughter, Maria. Ronan flinches, his eyes widening in shock and recognition as he hears the name Maria. His mind races, consumed by the thought is that her. Oblivious to Ronan, Duan tells Maria to greet the customers. She sizes them up before speaking. Maria asks bluntly these two kiddos. Estelle is jolted, and Duan scolds her for poor manners. Duan apologizes, saying his daughter lacks a filter. Asel waves, saying she's fine. Asel says she's fine, but unsure about Ronan. She sees him stride purposefully toward Maria. Ronan stands before Maria, intense, asking if she's really Maria. He asks if she is also Senator Maria. Stunned, narrows her eyes and confirms, asking how he knows. A bead of sweat runs down Ronan's face as the confirmation hits him. His memories are correct. He thinks to himself that something felt familiar about her, and this confirms it. His thoughts conclude with certainty, it must be you. A shadowy figure with glowing eyes and a sword flashes in his memory. The Sen from his past life. Now completely sure of her identity, Ronan smirks and beckons Maria to come closer, telling her he wants to ask her something. He leans in, whispering to her, I was just wondering, do you have one of those down there, you know what? Maria's eyes widen in shock as Ronan whispers the manly part into her ear. Maria looks utterly shocked by Ronan's question, wondering what he said. Ronan remains calm and mildly curious. Maria's mind races, wondering if he asked about her having male parts. As a silly chili pepper pops into her thoughts, Ronan keeps observing, muttering she does not look like she has male parts, further infuriating Maria as she grits her teeth in anger. Lost in thought, Ronan connects her to someone from his past, wondering if that man had a hidden son, when a swift movement suddenly cuts through the air toward him. Fed up, Maria slaps Ronan hard across the face, yelling for him to shut his mouth. The slap leaves Ronan stunned, his cheek red and swollen. Amid the shock, a sense of familiarity hits him as he remembers that same biting feeling. Realization strikes as his mind screams that it is him. As Maria stands ready to fight, Ronan recalls his past life, seeing a male soldier with the same blonde hair and determined green eyes. The name finally clicks into place. The person he remembers, the one with that unforgettable slap, was Count Maria Sen. The scene shifts into a flashback as Ronan remembers his past life, when he was forced into the army as a penal soldier in Armalin. In that life, he knew Count Maria Sen, who appeared as a man and was in charge of supplies for the army. Ronan recalls his personality. Strict and by the book, but also surprisingly sociable and easy to get along with. He remembers them sharing drinks, and how Count Maria had made an impression on him in many different ways. He recalls a strange pattern from his past life. Whenever the topic of male parts came up, Count Maria would clench his fist in rage. This rage always led to the same outcome. The Count would flare up and slap Ronan across the face. Back then, Ronan could never figure out the reason for this bizarre reaction. He had always wanted to ask the Count about it if they ever met again, but unfortunately he never got the chance. Because in that life, Count Maria Sen died in battle before Ronan did. Back in the present, Ronan smirks, the decades-old mystery solved. He thinks he didn't expect to learn the reason here, looking at Maria. He says aloud, Count Maria, so you're a woman, huh? Enraged, Maria threatens, do you need another slap? Then I'll give you one, she yells, lunging forward to strike him again. But this time, Ronan is prepared. He stops her arm and delivers a swift chop to her head, shouting, stop it, you jerk! Maria cries out in pain. As Maria clutches the new bump on her head, Ronan scolds her. Don't get cocky just because you hit me once. He says he only let her slap him because he made a mistake. Maria glares, her eyes burning with the promise of retaliation. Ignoring him, she challenges, and what if I do, before slapping him again, showing the fight isn't over. The fight descends into a chaotic brawl, with Ronan and Maria pulling each other's hair and yelling insults. Asel and the stable master watch in horror as the fight continues, while both Ronan and Maria burn with the same thought that the other is dead. Unable to watch any longer, both Asel and the stable master shout for them to stop fighting. From above, Ronan and Maria wrestle on the ground as their companions rush to separate them. A little while later, the sun begins to set, casting a calm, golden glow over the camp, indicating the fight has finally ended. Inside, a bewildered Asel looks on, wondering to herself what could have possibly transpired between Ronan and Maria. Maria, looking annoyed, gets down to business and asks to see the items they kept, while Asel recalls how they were at each other's throats just moments ago. Surprisingly, Ronan is completely calm. He agrees and tells Maria to assess the items for him. He confidently adds that if the items aren't any good, he'll just buy something else, much to Asel's confusion. Seated at a table with the confiscated items, Asel notices how Ronan and Maria seem unusually close despite the brawl. Maria inspects their haul, 3 swords and a single magic wand. She asks why he keeps 3 swords, wondering if they're heavy. He replies just in case he's rough with swords. After inspecting the weapons, Maria gives her verdict. While none of them are bad, she identifies the black steel sword as the best of the 3. She explains that black steel swords are known for being extremely sturdy and are often used by well-known knights. Handing it to Ronin, she remarks that this particular sword will be hard to break, no matter how rough he is. Ronin takes it, looking genuinely surprised. Inwardly, Ronin is delighted. Black steel swords were his favorite type of weapon in his past life. Maria then turns her attention to the magic wand, noting that it has a very good mana stone embedded in it. Putting 2 and 2 together, she correctly guesses that the wand is for Asel, calling her cutie, and identifying her as a mage. Asel shyly confirms. Maria then asks Asel what kind of magic she specializes in. Fidgeting nervously, Asel timidly reveals that she uses telekinesis. Maria is amazed, saying telekinesis is incredible and could earn Asel a scholarship. Asel blushes, pleased. With Asel secured, Maria turns to Ronin, asking what technique he'll show for the practical exam, leaving him confused. Maria explains that to be accepted into Phil Eon Academy, all applicants must demonstrate a special technique in front of the professors. She stresses the practical exam is the most important, saying acceptance is almost guaranteed if done well. She explains that unless you prove yourself in the exam, you can forget studying at the academy. Ronin, clueless, asks if just hacking at stuff is enough. Ronin asks what techniques are demonstrated. Maria explains nobles often showcase their family's secret techniques. She explains applicants for the martial arts department show unique mana combat techniques. The word mana catches Ronin's attention. Ronin questions how swordsmen can use mana if they aren't mages. Maria looks at him, baffled, and asks if he doesn't have mana resonance. Ronin is completely lost, question marks floating around his head. Maria, frustrated, reminds him using mana in combat is a basic requirement. Maria realizes with horror, trembling as she asks if he doesn't know what mana resonance is. Ronin, oblivious, asks if it's the same as using an aura. Maria is thunderstruck. She can't believe it. He's applying to Philion, one of the most prestigious academies, without knowing such a fundamental concept. Maria, still shocked, can't process that he equated auras and mana. Ronin brushes it off, saying it's just a simple question. Maria decides she's had enough of his ignorance. This won't do at all, she declares, springing to her feet and ordering him to come with her, startling Ronin. She grabs one of the short swords from the table, stating she'll borrow it since Ronin left his own sword at a blacksmith for repairs. Ronin protests, worried she might damage his new weapon. But Maria, now holding 2 swords, dismisses his concerns, promising the lesson will be quick. To reassure him, she promises to pay double, or even triple, the sword's value if it's damaged. Ronin scoffs at her nerve but seems to relent. With a determined look, Maria pulls back the tent flap and orders him to stop stalling. It's time for his special lesson. The lesson begins. Maria's voiceover explains the first basic principle. Mana is the energy source of the universe. She compares mana to the air we breathe, a natural energy everyone has around them but not everyone can use. To use mana, she explains, one needs mana resonance, which is the ability to see and feel one's own mana. She elaborates that everyone reaches this stage at different times, based on factors like their training method or their own natural talent. For most, a year of training is needed to sense mana. For Philion applicants, sensing it isn't enough. The applicants are expected to have already learned how to use their mana in combat. The image shows a crowd of prospective students, illustrating the high bar for entry. She scolds him under the night sky, pointing out that he doesn't even know the difference between mana and auras, let alone mana resonance. With a dramatic flourish, she declares the idea of someone like him studying at Philion is completely ridiculous. Maria concedes that auras are technically a type of mana, but insists they are as different as night and day. Intrigued, Ronin asks just how different they could be. She explains that even the most naturally gifted warriors have to endure about 10 years of grueling training just to unlock that unique, personal power. In other words, she clarifies that unique power they unlock is their aura. Maria asks if he understands. Ronin, still processing, says yeah, sort of. The explanation triggers a memory for Ronin. He recalls that he occasionally encountered people with similar powers during the war in his past life. He remembers them as arrogant bastards who called themselves aura users and wielded a strange power he didn't fully comprehend at the time. He admits to himself that they were certainly harder to kill than ordinary soldiers, but he never thought they were that big of a deal. His past self, a seasoned and bloodied warrior, believed that skill alone was enough. He arrogantly concludes that one good slash was always enough to kill them anyway. Back in the present, Maria narrows her eyes. Finished with theory, she asks if they should get started. She says, "I has a feeling that he's probably more of a hands-on learner." Flicking her hair, she readies her sword for the practical lesson. Ronan, stuck in his old mindset, underestimates her, thinking she can't be that strong. She's just a kid. In a blur of motion, Maria launches herself towards him with explosive speed, shattering his condescending assumption. Ronan's eyes widen in utter shock as he barely manages to register her attack, his mind struggling to keep up with her speed. Their swords meet in a brilliant clash of steel and sparks, their faces inches apart, locked in a deadly focus. Ronan grunts, feeling the unexpected power behind her strike as he struggles to hold his ground. Maria presses her advantage, eyes glowing faint green, overpowering him. She smirks, impressed he blocked her initial attack.